What's up, guys? Now that she's got her laugh out of the way, it's Jared from Drive or Die Garage, and today we're going to be starting to fix my steering wheel. Now, you might be asking, why are you fixing your steering wheel? And as many of us C4 owners might know, from people over time getting in and out of the car, they get a lot of play in them. Yeah, so I can move my steering wheel pretty good amount, and that's just not okay. So today, we're gonna take it off. And like I said, that's just over time, people using it to hop in and out of the car. So that's something I definitely want to take care of. But first step in it, because you got to pull the airbag out, is we got to disconnect the battery. When you're working on any type of airbag system, you don't want any power to avoid any accidental airbag deployment. So we're going to start off by doing that. So now that I got the hood open, I can get access to the negative battery terminal. Go ahead and pop that off, and then we're going to start taking the steering wheel apart. All right, so I got my 8mm. Just like that, the negative battery cable is disconnected. Now that power is disconnected, we're gonna jump back inside. And so there are 2 bolts on the back of the steering wheel itself, and they hold the airbag in place. So you're gonna go ahead and remove those to just get the airbag out of the way. I believe they are Torx bits, size T27. The T27 is what I'm using. And they're in there kind of an angle, so you might have to, just move the socket around a little bit. So there we go. Both of them are released, and the airbag should just come out. Now, when you're disconnecting the electrical connector, be sure not to, just rip it all the way out, because it does have this connector at the back, but it has a locking tab. So you got to disconnect this blue piece at the top, and then you'll be able to lift up and separate them. I like to usually use like a little screwdriver, as long as you have something that can just press them out of the way. I'm actually going to go ahead and get a little screwdriver. So all you guys need is a little flathead, and you're gonna just get in between that, the yellow part and the blue part, and kind of just press it, and it should pop out like that. Be sure not to lose it, because you're gonna want to put it back in. So all it is, it's just a little blue piece of plastic, and it stops the connector from actually separating. Now that that's off, you can lift up, disconnect, and remove the airbag from the vehicle. Never put the airbags on the ground facing down. If they were by some chance to go off accidentally, that's going to become a torpedo or a small projectile, and it's just not good. Now that we got that off, we can take out the contacts for our horn. I like to get them up and out of the way, and then I'm gonna need a socket to get a bolt off of the inside. So let me disconnect it from the mount. So here's what it looks like. So this is that electrical connector I was talking about, that's disconnected. And then now we have to get this nut off, because that's what actually holds the steering wheel to the column. So we're gonna take that nut off, and then we're gonna put our steering wheel puller tool, which I will show you guys in a minute, into these 2 bolt holes. And that'll enable us to actually slide the steering wheel off. So this is the steering wheel puller. So you get like a couple of bolts in there, you get the actual puller itself, and then some washers. So a good thing to do for any of that is you want to actually mark the location. As you guys can see, I've made like a gold mark up there, like a gold mark off to the side. So that's just indexing the steering wheel onto the steering shaft, so that way when I put it back on, my wheel's not going to be like, crooked as hell. So another good thing to do is actually lock the steering wheel in place. Like you guys just heard it click, so now it can't really move without me turning the key in the ignition. Let me go ahead and grab that socket, and we'll get that pulled off. All right, so this nut inside there is a 21mm. So you're just gonna want to turn it and just back it off. Just like that, that little nut comes off. And I'm actually gonna just put it right up top here. Now what we need to do is actually pull this off of the shaft. I have those paint marks already, so what I'm gonna do is actually just go back, really get them onto that shaft, so that way I know when I'm putting this back on, it's in the same location. All right. So it is more of a coarse thread. I'm not sure of the exact diameter. These should thread in perfectly fine. Back our puller all the way out. Now that we got our washers, we're gonna just thread these right into the knuckle. And you really want to try and get them, as far down the threads as you can, because that's just going to help with not stripping the actual bolt holes out. So then we're gonna thread that rod back down, and then we're just gonna start turning it in. And the steering wheel should pull off. And just like that, it is off. So then you're gonna feed the electrical cord back through. And this next part, which is the clock spring, we're going to be very careful to not disrupt it. Again, I'm going to mark this for positioning, so that way when I put it back, I can make sure it is in the correct spot. And now you will need a set of snap ring pliers. Okay, so I got my snap ring pliers, and you're just gonna get down inside there, expand that. And the whole thing should just pop right out. Now be sure to not lose this clip or snap ring, because you're going to need that for reassembly. Making sure not to turn it to wobbling at all. Remove the wave plate from behind it. So for this next part, we need to actually compress this little metal piece to get the spring out, and that will enable us to pull the rest of it the rest of the way out. What I'm also going to do now is just go ahead and remove a couple other pieces from around the column. Put back here. I just real quick had to run out to the store to pick up this fantastic steering wheel lock plate remover. I realized pretty quickly I was not going to be able to do it with what I had laying around here in the shop, and I found a store that was like a couple minutes away and they had one in stock, and it really, I think it was like 17, 18 bucks, something like that. But what it does is you just thread it right on, and as you thread it on, as long as the wing nut is up against the plate, it's going to start compressing that lock plate, and it should compress it so you can get that little ring out, which I will need a pick tool for. A pick tool would be a lot better for this, but in the spirit of working with what I got, I just don't have one here. So I'm going to grab another screwdriver and try and just work that out. So there we go. So I got that off, and now we're just gonna slowly back this off. It is under tension, so just remember that, and we should be able to remove that off. So you're gonna want that in the up position, or the right turn position, so you can access the 3 screws, which are Phillips heads, behind it. Also have to remove the hazard switch assembly. As I've been going along doing this repair, there's definitely a lot more, than I thought at the beginning. Now, I didn't look anything up on this. I'm pretty good with most cars, but this being like, even built before I was born, there are a couple steps that I just thought I could bypass, but can't. So as you can see by that mess of wiring all down there, I actually had to remove the knee bolster and the little plate that hides it all, so that way I could get access to all the wiring down there, so I can pull the rest of the stuff in the column out. So right now we're gonna go ahead and find those wires and get this part done.